We'll be talking about the fifth paramita tonight, and just briefly as background, paramita is it's a Buddhist term. It's in Sanskrit or Pali, translated usually as perfection, and it's described as being the character qualities generally associated with enlightened beings like us. In Buddhism and Zen and elsewhere for sure, there are endless lists of characteristics and vows and tenets and things that can be kind of overwhelming. So I want to encourage you not to be overwhelmed. We've got 3 treasures, 3 tenets, 3 pure precepts, 4 bodhisattva vows, 4 noble truths, 6 paramitas, Eightfold Path, 10 grave precepts, and more lists. So it's easy to be confused or to feel, especially if we're newer to practice, to feel like, boy, I'm not cutting it because I haven't memorized all of this yet, and I don't fully understand what it all means. And don't worry about that. Set that aside. These things, we appreciate these things slowly over time. Kind of like koan practice. I've said this before, but the Mumonkan has 48 koans, and to sit down and read the thing from beginning to end in a weekend is not the point. It takes a long time to work through the Mumonkan, a year sometimes or more, one by one. So, as well, paramitas, again translated as perfections, that can be a little intimidating as well. I'm not a perfect being, but I can still practice these, and that's really the point of them. Perfection, at least for me, is an impossibility, but we practice these perfections nonetheless. They're tools that we use to wake up, tools we use to forget our small selves and to appreciate our lives. And as such, we're never really going to arrive or be finished with this work. So these 6 perfections in English are generosity, ethical conduct, patience, joyful effort, all 4 of which we've talked about before, and now meditation, and the final one, and we'll talk about in 3-4 weeks, is understanding. So tonight we're talking about the 5th, Dhyana Paramita, or the perfection of meditation. From a talk that Sensei Robert Thomas gave at Upaya in 2013, he said the purpose of meditation is simply learning how to be a human being in this body, right here, right now. And he said, according to Dogen, we've all heard this, of course, to study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. And to forget the self is to be enlightened by all things of the universe. And Sensei Thomas goes on to say, we study ourselves in this moment, moment after moment. We don't sit zazen to gain enlightenment. We sit without any notion of a gaining idea. And secondly, when we do zazen, we do not do it by ourselves. We do zazen right in the middle of our lives. We do zazen with everything that's around us. We join the trees, the rocks, the blossom on the peach tree, and even the cars. So this term, dhyana, again, which is a Pali term, in Chinese is Chan, C-H'-A-N. In Japanese is Zen, in Korean is Shōun, and in Vietnamese is Tien. All translate as meditation. So here at Eon Zen Center, in our Chinese became Japanese became Western lineage, we are the Zen school, or the meditation school. of meditation, Roshi John Daido Loori wrote, and I love this. This is so grounding. In the cold, damp shelters of our primitive ancestors, lit only by the flickering of a campfire, at day's end, there was a time for recollection and stillness that would help to fuel the next day's events. Since the beginning of human history, the still point has served as the birthplace of all our activity. Virtually every creature on this great earth takes the backward step of quieting down and entering this still point. You might recognize the backward step from when we talked about Joko back turning around. Daido goes on, birds, beasts, bugs, and fish all seem to find time in their daily existence to relax. And he used the word, you might pronounce it recreate, but I like recreate, same spelling, to bring forth the flower from what Walt Whitman called the seed of perfection. That's the end of Daido's quote. And it's said that dhyana, or this fifth perfection of meditation, is actually the foundation for the first four paramitas, or perfections. That a still, non-reactive mind is necessary to be able to express and to realize generosity, morality, patience, and vigor. One might say that those first four perfections are more terrestrial, or more universal, more accessible. They don't require special skills or knowledge. But this fifth paramita, this fifth perfection of meditation, takes us into a different realm, doesn't it? Takes us into a spiritual realm, one that requires a kind of effort that's new to most of us when we begin doing this. Unfamiliar territory, perhaps. Some people come by this naturally. But for most of us, I can speak for myself, it was new. It's not rooted in rational thinking, my normal mind. It challenges us to let go and trust something that's unfamiliar and unseen. Hongzhi, Zhengzhui, from the 12th century, from Mount Tiantong, said, "A person of the way fundamentally does not dwell anywhere. The white clouds are fascinated with the green mountain's foundation. The bright moon cherishes being carried along with the flowing water. The clouds part and the mountain appears. The moon sets and the water is cool. Each bit of autumn contains vast interpenetration without bounds." Hongzhi was Chinese and was a teacher of Dogen when Dogen was studying in China before he came back to Japan. Realistically, tonight, and really in any briefer, I guess, seminar or something, there are really far too many meditation practices for us to do a responsible review of all of them. And frankly, for the purposes of our discussion tonight, that's really not the point, to review all of them. Nor tonight is it the point to instruct ourselves necessarily on how to do any of these. I was reading somebody yesterday, I forgot who it was, it might have been Daido, who referred to that of all the thousands and thousands of volumes of books on Zen, precious little is actually written about how to do Zen meditation. There are some giant texts like Fukan Zazengi that are classic and definitive, but it's otherwise fairly scarce. But among, I just lost my view here. Let's go back. Why did that happen? Among these various practices, and in this group, I'm sure everybody here has practiced in different ways meditation. There are calming meditations, vipassana, insight meditation. It's concentrating on a syllable or a phrase, or concentrating on the breath, or counting the breath, or concentrating on various places in the body, or on a koan, or on lists of emotions such as loving kindness, or joy, or compassion, or equanimity, or just sitting, and many more. This week, this is just something of as an aside, I realized we have a happy scheduling coincidence. The Foundations course on Thursday evening will be led by Gyoto Sensei and Roshi Karen Ryuku Kemp from the Denver Zen Center, and they'll be talking about shikantaza, just sitting, and koan practice from 6 to 8. Everybody's welcome. I encourage, if you can, if you have time, I encourage you to join. It should really be rich. I'm looking forward to it. But with each of these practices, we focus on the object of our concentration, even if it's broad focus. And we come back to it over and over again. And to stick with this, we need enormous faith, endless patience, true diligence, and ideally, outer support from a community such as this. And this process of refocusing, recommitting, taking the backward step is endless. And when we do this, we face resistance. Everyone's familiar. Mainly in five general areas, in the form of attachment, clinging to thoughts and ideas. This one's delicious, I'm not going to let it go. Or aversion, get me out of here right now. I can't stand this. Or worry, or laziness, or doubt, meaning questioning what we're doing, questioning the efficacy of what we're doing. Am I wasting my time? Is this stupid? Does anybody know I'm doing this? And all these are self-generated by this aggregate of ideas and projections and attachments that I call myself. They're self-inflicted, all of these resistances. And I'm sure everybody here is intimate with all five of them. I surely am, ad nauseum. But they have tended to soften, and they, at least for me, now they appear sometimes humorous. I laugh at myself at how ridiculous I can be with my resistance. Sometimes they're sad, sentimental, but I always experience them now as intensely human and intimately part of my life and part of this Zazen practice. They're not separate from it. They are it. Concentrating on one single point and doing so calmly and consistently with patience can be surprising, as this one point can be experienced as limitless and expansive. paying attention to breathing, especially down low in the belly, the ahara or the tanden or dantian. Particularly accessible practice, achievable and rewarding. And I think everybody here is familiar with this. Or in our practice, we may work with shikantaza, translated in different places in different ways as a silent illumination or serene reflection. There's a new expression I came across the other day, choiceless awareness. And this term shikantaza is attributed to Tiantong Rujing from the 12th century in China. And it literally means nothing but sitting. Or in Dogen's words, doing only zazen wholeheartedly, or single-minded sitting. For the course on Thursday, Sokyo put up a reading that's just wonderful from Hongju about shikantaza. It's just a lovely read. I recommend it. Some of us are involved in koan practice. Koan practice relies on the three pillars of great doubt, great faith, and great determination. And it's really good at challenging us to come forward with all three of those. We apply our single-pointed awareness to a curriculum of timeless teaching stories, or koans, from both classical and more current Zen history. Daido Roshi says, in order to see into a koan, we must go beyond the words and ideas that describe reality and directly and intimately experience reality itself. The answer to a koan is not a fixed piece of information. The answer to a koan is one's own intimate and direct experience of the universe and its infinite facets. So we turn inward, we look at ourselves. Rujing again, a quote from Rujing, everywhere. Turn around, I love this turn around. And the backward step is another expression. Everywhere, turn around freely. Not following conditions. Not falling into classifications. Facing everything, let go and attain stability. Stay with that just as that. Stay with this just as this. That and this are mixed together with no discriminations as to their places. What's consistent in all these different types of meditation is that they're grounded in our bodies. These practices are somatic. We use our body, our breath, nervous system, our thoughts, our emotions, our awareness, and our guts. We use those resistances that I talked about earlier. We use all of that. But it's all ours. And we may come face to face with these three characteristics of existence: impermanence, no self, and unsatisfactoriness or suffering. Norman Fisher said, these don't need to be as gloomy as they sound. He said, it takes a bodhisattva to see that it makes perfect sense that if things arise and pass away at the same time, they don't actually exist. If they don't actually exist, they can't cease to exist. Hence, impermanence is permanence. And bodhisattvas know that if we are not the abiding selves we think we are, we must be some other sort of selves that gloriously come and go in the great flow of impermanence. True selves. Bodhisattvas know that if we slough off false lives, we get true lives, no longer clinging exclusively to our pathetic, vulnerable non-selves. We become no one and everyone. And once bodhisattvas see and integrate the unsatisfactory nature of our lives in this broken world of partiality, they see that the pain and trouble inherent in alienated consciousness are exactly the pain and trouble that we need to live this life of sorrow and healing together with everyone in a painful and gorgeous world. So an unsatisfactoriness or suffering becomes joy. I love this quote of Norman's. I almost want to read it again. I won't. This makes me say, wow. In our single-pointed concentration, the object of our focus remains the same. It could be breath, it could be a koan, it could be a word or a sound or part of our body. It remains the same moment to moment. In mindfulness practice, the object of our focus changes with outer circumstances or with the landscape and the topography of our life experience. And this begins to describe our Zen practice off the cushion, which may or may not be unique. I don't know. When we do that, when we bring that mindfulness to changes with our outer circumstances, the landscape and the topography of our life experience, we're aware of and mindful of everything. Physical states, thoughts and emotions, the sunshine, unpleasant people, sickness, television, ecstasy, on and on and on, whatever comes up next. In Zen culture, we refer to this in many ways. We say, eat when you eat, sleep when you sleep, chop wood, carry water, wash your bowls. And these aren't intended to be bumper stickers or clever sayings or verbal tricks. They're literally instructions on how to live mindfully. So in our Zen practice, we are engaged with much more than the formal act of sitting meditation. As part of this discussion on meditation, everything we do is Zen. Everything we do is meditation. Nothing is left out. Just this and all of this. No gap, no duality, no me, and no that. Unification, oneness. I hope this relates. I really liked this. It seemed appropriate at this point. There's this beautiful expression in the Platform Sutra written by Huineng, who is the sixth Zen patriarch in China after Bodhidharma, probably including Bodhidharma. And Huineng, and many of you have read about him, I'm sure, but he was illiterate. And he worked in the kitchen, pounding rice, doing other things. But in fact, he was very accomplished in his practice, and the teacher knew. And the teacher set up a poetry contest, and the head monk offered these 4 lines. The body is a Bodhi tree. The mind is like a standing mirror. Always try to keep it clean. Don't let it gather dust. And Wei Nung responded. He couldn't write, so he had another monk write words on the wall for him, as the story goes. And Wei Nung said, Bodhi doesn't have any trees. The mirror doesn't have a stand. Buddha nature is forever pure. Where did you get this dust? We can hear and really feel the difference in these 2 expressions. Dogen makes the point that the Buddha and Bodhidharma and others did not meditate in order to become enlightened. They did so because they already were enlightened, as Sensei Thomas said in the beginning of this talk. How can that be? Why don't I know? My body knows. Norman says about meditation, the body knows precisely how to live the truth of impermanence and permanence. The body knows precisely how to live the truth of impermanence and permanence. It knows how to change, moment by moment. It understands perfectly how things arise and pass away simultaneously. And it's fully capable of dying and mixing with other elements to continue its cosmic journey forever. So our practice of meditation offers us this opportunity and this challenge to have what occurs to me is this kind of radical faith in our bodies and our lives. Not adding anything on. It's already here. I'm alive. I'm in this body. And Norman's telling us, my body knows everything I need. Everything I need, my body already knows. This radical faith in our bodies and our lives to be this deeply intimate with ourselves. To study the way is to study ourselves. I think everyone here is familiar with the Shinshin Ming. And the translation of Shinshin Ming is either faith or trust in heart-mind. Same thing. This is so simple and so awe-inspiring. Dogen again says, take the backward step and turn the light inward. Your body-mind of itself will drop off and your original face will appear. If you want to attain just this, immediately practice just this. Again, I'm reminded of Joko Beck with that backward step and her expression of turning around. Fisher encourages us this way. By definition, this practice is impossible. There's literally nothing to it. Meditation practice he's talking about. Yet we can do it, or rather it can somehow occur, though we can't do it. When the mind becomes quiet, ceases to search for concentration, insight, or anything other than being in time, and is willing to simply sit in the midst of the impossible ineffability of being alive, then this meditation is taking place. Body and mind drop away. No longer ours, we don't worry about them. Like the sun rising in the morning, our original face, our Buddha face, dawns. We touch it intimately with our body breath and awareness. I know this is a lot of quotes, but I just love them. They're so rich. This is the last one. And again, this is Daido Roshi, and he says, "We all have the potential to live a fully deluded or fully awakened life. It's up to us to choose. This boundless Dharma is always present, whether we realize it or not. We should strive with all our might to keep it alive and vibrant. It is the most important thing we will ever do with our lives." So, thank you for listening to this, and let's practice wholeheartedly and encourage one another. Thank you.